Right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar, Bridging the Gap, Aligning Quality in Manufacturing Through Digital Batch Records. So today we're going to do some quick introductions. We'll have a demo of our production records product MX, and then we'll have a quick customer story. And then we're going to have a lot of time for Q&A. So I encourage you to think about what questions you have for the two presenters that we have today. You can use that Q&A functionality down at the bottom of your screen to submit a question. We're going to get through all the questions. We'll either get through them live, and if we don't get to your question, then we will respond via email. So please do make sure you put those questions in the Q&A and not in the chat. That way they get tracked and we can make sure that we follow up with you. So today we have Patrick Kaytor with us. Patrick is a seasoned life science professional with over 20 years of experience working with MasterControl. You may have seen him recently at our recent AQEM webinar. He is sort of a jack of all trades when it comes to MasterControl, and so we're really excited to have him here today to talk about MX. He's a senior software quality assurance specialist. Like I said, he's got a great background with MasterControl across a variety of our products. So highly recommend asking your questions to Patrick to really dive into some of the information that he has to share. Patrick works at Halozyme, which provides innovative and disruptive solutions that provide new therapeutic options that significantly improve the patient experience. So again, we're just really thankful to have Patrick with us today. Our second presenter is Kelly, who is a solutions consultant here at MasterControl. She helps organizations digitize paper batch records to enhance efficiency, accuracy, and traceability. Kelly really knows the ins and outs of MX. So if you have specific product functionality questions, follow-up questions to the demo that she's going to share, highly recommend chatting with her in the Q&A. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Kelly to get started with our demo.
All right, guys. Well, I am so happy to be here with you guys today. When I was in industry, I spent about 20 years in process and validation engineering. I always worked for a very paper-heavy company. And if I learned anything from that, it was that 100% review absolutely never meant 100% compliant. It seems like we could review and again, and then come audit time, we would still find missing signatures, out of spec conditions, et cetera. The other thing that was always a bit troubling was that anytime we had a big quality event on the floor, very few things were track and trended. So if we really wanted to dig down into the details, we had to pull tons of data, enter that data in order to learn about our processes. And this day and age, we really should not have to dig for data and enter it manually. So we're going to talk about first of all, our insights module and how an electronic batch record can actually track and trend automatically for you. So we're going to start with that, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, and here we go. So this first dashboard here is really just a
Hey,
generic.
Kelly, I'm not seeing your demo screen.
You're not seeing my demo screen. Okay. There we go. Is that better?
Yes,
Perfect.
that's it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so this is a generic overview of the lots that are currently in production in my demo environment. You can see that it's here just giving you a bar graph of anything that's been closed and accepted versus rejected, maybe some that have data complete but are waiting for review, in-process records, and ones that are open, not quite started yet. So this is just this bar chart and the pie chart are really just two versions of the exact same data. Other things that we can do is provide you a quick visual on any types of time constraints. In this case, I've built this pivot table highlighting release times or start to finish for your batch. So if our goal, let's say, is under 4 days, you can see that these have green, whereas some of the others may be more troubling, but with a simple glance, we can see, which batches are held up, and it allows us to easily be able to dig in and investigate why a certain product is not moving through the plant. Now, when I said that we can track and trend on everything, that is true. We can also pull any data that you have input. So for any of you guys that are working in quality and you have stumbled across maybe a supplier lot that ended up having some issues, or maybe some equipment that was found to be out of calibration, it can really be a nightmare in order to contain material involved. But here we are able to filter and sort every data point. So I'm going to come down here to production data capture. And let's say if I found a particular thermometer out of spec and I want to find, which batches reference this thermometer and used it in the process, I can find all that literally in just a few seconds. So here's everywhere it has been used in the past month. And then it makes quarantine and investigation so much easier. And finally, we are able to track and trend any, data you input. Here, we're monitoring pH and concentration as a certain product line is completed. Now, if we are trending low or high, we can set up what we refer to as pulses so that nothing is surprising. So if we forget to look here for a few days, we can make sure that we are notified anytime we have an out of spec condition. So anytime this threshold is breached, we can choose to be alerted, right away. We can choose if we want to be alerted, maybe if we have 3 within the week or something like that. But you have the flexibility to be able to set your alert levels to make sure things don't kind of like ride under the surface and skim by. We can also just see with a glance how this pH and concentration is trending and the trend lines involved. So again, all of this can be updated automatically as these batches are moving through the plant. These can also be exported. So if you're wanting to use these charts in some month-end presentations and such, it's all right there for you. All right. So that is the final goal, is getting some of this data, being able to use it and improve our processes. But let's talk a little bit about what MasterControl's MX looks from the operator perspective. All right, so right here we have an open batch record that has just been initiated. This center section is really just what is in essence a cover sheet in the paper world. It's summarizing the header information. It's also building a signature manifest of anyone that has completed any task. It will continually add names as different users complete tasks. If we've referenced any documents, launched any quality events forms, or linked to other production records, those references will also be summarized right here on this accountability page. But over here on the left is what we refer to as the navigation pane, and this is how we are going to step through the record. You can see that these first two sections are pre-process and process. You guys will have the ability to configure your process as you wish. These are not predefined. We have a no-code solution that enables you to configure just by clicking icons and toggling on properties. So I'm going to drill down here to pre-process, and then we have one subcategory. And if I drill down one more time, it takes me to my phase level. And my phase level is where we actually perform our data captures. So I'm going to enter my line clearance. And when I enter my line clearance, the first thing I met with is an instruction pane. And this is just asking me to perform my line clearance per the referenced SOP. Now this SOP is connected to our QX environment natively. So this will always point to the most recent revision. In addition, it's performing a training check. And if I'm not trained to this particular SOP, it's not going to let me move forward and enter any data. We'll see that in a little bit. In the instruction panes, you can also insert any images, charts, graphs, etc., whatever would aid the operators in performing their task. All right, now we're just going to go through our checklist. We're going to make sure all materials and documentation are completed. Once we click Step Complete, you can see that my 21 CFR Part 11 compliance signature appears here with the date and time. And now we're going to ensure that the cleaning requirements have also been completed. And if you see here, we have also linked a logbook. MasterControl also offers a logbook solution. So if you're keeping things like cleaning logs, filter changes, calibration records, we are able to link those to the records for the operators to easily verify that a certain task has been done. So if I'm in room C today and I want to see if this has been cleaned and signed off, I'm able to look in here at the log and verify that indeed it has been cleaned today. If it hasn't, and that's my job responsibility, I could simply start a new row and complete all my tasks before heading back to the production record. All right, so once I've ensured that my area is clean, I will complete this, complete the phase, and now I'm being prompted for a verifier. Now for verifiers, we can define who is allowed to verify by role groups. So if you want to allow a peer to review, you absolutely can do that. If you want to limit this to maybe quality, then you can assign that role to the verification also. In addition, the verifiers can verify two separate ways. First of all, if they are on another device, they can enter this record concurrently and verify from their own device. Or if they're standing right here over my shoulder, they can simply enter their name and electronic signature from my device and verify. So I don't have to log out. They can simply verify right across my shoulder. Regardless, anytime anyone else has completed any task, I'll get this little yellow exclamation point, just letting me know that somebody else is in the record completing some data. All right, moving on to equipment. All right, now here you see I am getting a training pop-up. This is what will happen if I am not trained to a particular task referenced in the phase. Now, if I wanted to go ahead and click this training task, it would take me directly to the QX module. I could read, understand, maybe take an associated quiz, and then come right back here and complete the equipment task. For demo's sake, I am going to override this, but we do offer the ability for supervisors to override in case you have some extenuating circumstances, or maybe they've completed it on paper and it's just not in the system. All right, so now we're going to enter our equipment. And here I've just generated a drop-down list of equipment they can choose from. If you have an asset management system now, know that we can integrate to other systems in order to generate a pick list that can pull in equipment numbers and calibration dates automatically. We also highly recommend barcoding equipment and materials, anything that you can slap a barcode on, because that really picks up that efficiency and ensures that we don't make those typos. So in this case, if I just scan my thermometer ID, it can bring in that calibration due date automatically. And again, this is oftentimes some low-hanging fruit that really can improve efficiency throughout the process. All right. Next, we're moving on onto materials. But before we get too far, I did want to point out over here on the navigation pane, you can see some blue dots as well as the green checks. The green checks indicate that the field is complete. The dot indicates that this particular phase is active and ready to receive data. However, if you notice down here in my process section, I don't have the dots, and that's because I've set up process to require a predecessor. So if you would like to prevent operators from performing work in certain sections until other sections have been complete, you can absolutely do that. Conversely, if you want to allow your operators to work concurrently, you can configure your template to allow that also. All right. So coming down here to materials, we can, of course, scan the material and pull any information from a barcode. Often, however, if you use an ERP system, we can integrate to that ERP system where it can reach out to the ERP system, ensure that that lot number is assigned to this particular work order, and pull down that appropriate information. Then if the operator is trying to scan materials that are not assigned, it won't let them do that. So again, just another double check to make sure that the right materials are used for the right work order. And you can see now that my materials are entered, the process section has opened up. So here we're going to come down here and perform our weighing. Now up top, we do have some formulations referenced. This theoretical weight is tied to the batch quantity. So if you make the same product, but maybe sometimes you make, a 200 kilogram batch, other times maybe it's a larger 500 kilogram batch. These can scale without you having to manage multiple templates. So now I'm being instructed to enter my component A. So let's say I entered the specified amount. And then for component B, let's say I made a typo in this one. It's going to give me an out-of-spec warning to let me know that an out-of-spec condition has occurred. In addition, if I configure it so, it can go ahead and alert supervisor or quality that there has been an out-of-spec condition on the floor. Now, if it's just a typo, I can perform a correction. I can come right down here, select correct entry. It's going to ask me, do you really want to? And I'll say yes. I'll correct this entry, let them know the reason. And once I apply that, all of my warning limits have gone away. However, the correction remains. And if I come down to this arrow again and choose show corrections, you can see the entire audit trail. And so much neater than drawing lines, initialing dating, and trying to squeeze a written reason in on a batch record. So here you can see it retained the initial entry and the final entry along with the signature for each step of the way. Now, if you're required to attach weight receipts, the way we do attachments in MX is we either capture an image where it opens up the camera associated with your laptop or iPad, and you can simply snap a picture as evidence. Or if something has already been scanned into the system, you can search for any type of file and attach it right here. Now, as processes mature, we do recommend that you gather data electronically as much as possible. So here, this right here is showing an integration to a scale where we just trigger a data capture and it reaches out and pulls that value in from that scale. And again, this right here is going to prevent any of those typographical errors. It's going to make sure in real time it pulls the value that you are needing right here into the record. All right, finally, let's go enter this API addition, and we're going to complete the weighing portion here. All right. Now let's go to mixing. All right, here in the mixing, you see I have a dependency warning up here. And this is because for this particular section, I'm going to be required to complete all of my steps in order. So what this is going to do is ensure, first of all, that all my setup parameters are locked in. So in this case, if I'm supposed to set my mixer to 150, but it's set at 140, it's not going to let me move forward in this process. It's going to prevent me from even starting this process until I have my settings appropriately documented and set up. So once I complete that setting, I'm going to record my mixing start time. And then I'm going to allow this to mix for whatever specified time that I need to. When it's time to stop, I'll just simply click this next button to record that date and time, and the system's going to calculate a duration. Now, this particular duration is set for greater than 15 minutes. So of course, when I complete this stop time right here, it's going to pop up a warning letting me know we're not at 15 minutes yet. Do you still want to keep mixing? And do you want to commit to this value? And if I say no, it's going to allow that time to keep on ticking. But if I say yes, it's going to give me that out of spec warning. Now we know that events happen on the floor, and sometimes we just have to keep on trucking. But one thing we can do if you are also using our QX module is we can launch quality events right here from the batch record. So again, I can come down to this drop-down arrow, select launch form. Maybe I want to run under some type of nonconformance. I can choose to do that, and I can launch it right here from the record. And you can see now that this form is hyperlinked to the batch record, and quality will get notified via an email that a nonconformance has been launched from the floor. This is also nice because you can turn on a global property that's going to prevent you from releasing this product until the nonconformance has been closed. All right. Now, MasterControl also allows you to perform conditional pathing. So if you ever have maybe some rework, or maybe you hit the fork in the road, and depending on a particular result, you'll go down various paths. So anytime we have a multiple choice, pass, fail, yes, no, we are allowed to fork those steps. So in this case, I'm just going to do a simple inspection and ensure that this is visually uniform. If it passes, I'm done, and I can NA the rest of the record. But if it fails, I'll have to perform some additional mixing. So you can see once I choose pass, the rest of this record automatically is marked no longer applicable. And again, I don't have to do every single block. It can do those all together. All right. And finally, we're going to move on now to packaging. So if I come in here to packaging, I will be entering my drums in a table. So the table looks a little different at first glance, but these numbers up top are simply steps that have been collapsed. And the table starts empty, but as I have data to input it, the table will grow. So at this case, I'm going to go ahead and start this row, and then I can complete all the tasks associated with this first drum fill. So let me select my drum type, enter my tare weight, and my drum weight. It can automatically calculate that net weight, and I can complete that row. And to enter one more, again, my drum type will be a tare weight and gross weight. And once I complete it, I'm now back at the table. And you can see here on this net weight that I am performing some aggregate calculations, in this case, a sum. But if you need things such as max min, sum, average standard deviation, we can perform those calculations. And then we can use the output of these calculations elsewhere in the record to perform other calculations or set dynamic limits. So once I finish packaging, my yield should be automatically calculated for me. So here again, by the time you finish your process, my theoretical weight produced is already calculated, as well as my final percent yield. All right. And now we're going to come down to labeling. Again, we can have any type of standard referenced here in the instruction. If I enter my assembly date, so if I assembled it today, that expiration date can be calculated automatically. And then we can perform that label verification and then attach an image of that label as evidence. And now we're going to complete this labeling section. All right, so now I have completed my production record, and I need to pop up here to review by exception. Now, as we've been building out our record, in the background, a dashboard has been built to alert us of any particular conditions that or exceptions that have happened in our process. Here you can see we have steps corrected, attachments, one form launched, and limits exceeded, brought to our attention, right? So if we want to see this in detail, we can simply drill down in the review section, and it's going to take us exactly to that particular step. So we can investigate it right here, make sure that everything has been handled appropriately before we sign off on this record. But we see dramatic savings in the amount of time that it takes to review records. Typically 75 to 80% of the review time is reduced. Because if you think when you go electronic, no longer do you have GDP errors. You can't leave anything blank. All of your out of spec conditions are brought to your attention. Everything is legible and recorded in real time. So it reduces so many of those fields that you really have to review. So once this has been reviewed and everybody is good with it, the approver can sign up right here at the top for that final review. All right. Well, that is what I have from the operator's perspective for the batch record. So I'm going to turn it back over to Megan and Patrick to continue on from the user's perspective. All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Kelly.
guys.
I do have a quick question for you before we jump over to Patrick. The insights that you showed at the very beginning, that is standard insights, not premium insights, correct?
It was part of it was premium and part of it was just out of the box. So it was a split there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure thing.
All right, Patrick, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, thank you. So my name is Patrick. I actually work in the quality department. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how our experience using MX and with our production facility here in Minnetonka, Minnesota. We actually produce, manufacture, label, package, ship one of our products from this facility, and how we utilize MX to kind of marry quality along with it. As we all know that manufacturing and production is out there to make money and make profits and increase the bottom line, and quality's job is to keep the doors open. So what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today is some of the benefits we have found using MX and kind of how that works within our quality management system. So we're going to touch on a little bit about real-time monitoring, review by exception. I'll talk a little bit about that, team collaboration, and finally audit readiness, because that's one of the things that the quality department is very aware of, that the FDA or any of our partners or customers could knock on our door at any time and say, hey, we want to audit you. So next slide, please. So first thing we're going to talk about is real-time oversight. What does that mean? So we have a production facility. We actually operate within a clean room. If something goes wrong on the line or something happens in production, instead of having quality to gown up, go down there and take a look, they can actually just pop into the batch record, into the MX, into the production record, and take a look at what's going on. We can set up notifications within the batch record. So for instance, if an AQL event exceeds the limit, we can actually notify a particular group. They'll get the notification from MasterControl instantly. They can pop in the batch record, see, if any notes were added or if any, what's going on. And then they can we use Teams, so they can, Teams chat the individual on the line and get more information. And at that point, if something needs to be happen, quality can launch an event right from there. They can launch a deviation, they can launch out of spec right from that point, and they can start the investigation right then and there. We also monitor through the production, we monitor key events like reject rate. If one of our key components is all of a sudden spiking rejects, the quality department, we want to know about that because if it's something, if it's caused by maybe by the supplier or something's going on, we don't want the production to continue. So we have monitoring on certain aspects of the production that we identify as key and critical. That if we see a spike in rejects, we're going to pause, take a look at it, find out what's going on before we continue on with the production. The batch record also allows what Kelly was talking about is a centralized point of data collection. We are currently starting to roll out some insight dashboards for our production staff so they can see real-time reject rates, over time limits exceeded, and kind of stuff like that. So we created dashboards for a quick view of what's going on instead of having to pile through paperwork and figure out and enter stuff into Excel sheets and do pivot tables in Excel. Insights has all the data there. And one thing Kelly didn't talk a little bit about, I'm going to mention it slightly, is the ability to tag. So within the batch record, you can actually tag specific fields that, hey, I want to monitor this field. I want to report on this. So you can actually develop a custom-made tag that will pull that data into insights. So we are actively tagging a lot of our batch records. So I'll talk a little bit about that later on. So next slide, please. Yeah, awesome. The review by exception. Kelly touched on that at the very end after the batch record is done. We do not in quality have time to spend looking at good data. I'm not going to sit and look at all the stuff that's in spec, all the stuff that went well. We want to focus on what didn't go not so well. Review by exception allows us to do that where it focuses exactly on corrections, out of spec, any forms that were launched. So, hey, if I launch 3 deviations, I want to be able to see that in the review by exception and access those deviations and understand what's going on. Because ultimately, if we release the batch record, we want to make sure that we're releasing a complete batch record that meets all of our requirements, all of our government regulations that we have to follow, and also have all the data in it that we can actually backtrack if, gosh forbid, something happens that we have to do a recall or anything like that. We can drill down into the batch record to find out where the lot of the bad syringe was maybe used, or maybe these were mislabeled or something like that. So the review by exception allows you to look at what went wrong instead of wasting time to look at, not wasting time, but spending time looking at good data. We know the data is good. We don't have to review that. What we have to review is the stuff that went sideways or slightly wrong. So that allows us to quickly make decisions and accurately make decisions on the batch record. Is it good to go? Do we have to do some rework? Do we have to do some more investigation? But that allows us one-page access to see the overall level, the overall information in the batch record. Like I said, what went good and what went sideways. Okay. So quality and manufacturing collaboration. What do I mean by this? So Kelly demonstrated that if I open up a task and I'm not trained on it, we don't want our operators doing that unless they're trained. That's a sticking point for quality. We do not want individuals doing stuff that they're not trained on. The batch record allows that. You saw that in Kelly's demonstration where she tried to go into a section and she said, system flagged up, hey, you're not trained on this. You cannot proceed. It will prevent that individual, that operator, from entering data. Another operator that is trained will not see that. They'll not see that notification that says, hey, I'm trained. I can complete this phase. So it's a lot of the training checks that are within our production facility. It adds to when we do get audited, or somebody comes in and wants to look at the batch record, we have a link to that individual's training record. Hey, yep, they were trained before they did the activity. Hey, this individual was not trained. As you can see, they didn't touch the batch record. They are not in there in any way, shape, or form. Another big thing is in a paper-based system, when we make a mistake, single line crossout, initial date, reason, and then if you mistakenly mistake the correction, then you have to cross out the correction with another correction. It makes it look really messy. MasterControl, it is GDP compliant. Who did it, when they did it, what it was before, what it was trained to, automatically. We don't have to worry about that. We can track corrections. We can track and trend on corrections in batch records using insights. There's a couple pre-built dashboards in insights that just revolve around corrections. So you can take a look at it and say, hey, this particular table is constantly getting corrections. Maybe as a owner of the MX template, maybe we got to look at that table and see if maybe we can tweak things a little bit and make it a little bit more understanding. But you can track and trend corrections within the batch record using insights, and then also on the review by exception dashboard that can track down corrections. And all of a sudden you start seeing a huge spike in corrections on a particular batch record. Then you can kind of go, okay, what's going on? Do we have to do more training? Is there something slipping through the cracks, or what's going on there? So next slide. Audit readiness, another key thing. Since it is all electronic, since it is all configured within the MX module, which is tied to the QX module, which is also tied to the AQEM module, and which is also tied to logbooks, everything is right there. I don't have to run around and try to gather 5 folders or binders of information to present to an auditor. I can go, hey, here's our batch record. Here it is. What questions do you have? Oh, yep, this logbook is over here. Yep, that shows that this has been cleaned and it was cleaned before production started. Oh, yep, here's our training records. Or, oh, yep, here's a couple deviations that came out. They were closed before the batch was shipped. All that other stuff. So that really helps us become audit ready as the quality department wants to be. We don't want to prepare for an audit. We always want to be ready for an audit. It's a lot less stressful. And going forward, it's like, hey, if I know I'm ready, my batch records are done, they've been reviewed, they've been closed, everything's taken care of. I'm not going to worry about having to look at them before an audit. I already know they're audit ready. So that's one of the things that MasterControl does. They're 21 CFR Part 11 compliant with signatures, approvals. I can't approve my own work. I have to have another individual approve it. All this stuff is in there to prevent these mistakes that an auditor could find and possibly start pulling a string on and start diving deeper. So we really like the fact that the production records are audit ready. There's really no prep we have to do for them. They've already been reviewed by somebody in quality. They've already been released by someone in quality. So we're good to go there. All right, next slide. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about how we implemented MX. It was a big step for us. We were actually we were starting this facility to actually run production. So we already had MasterControl in place. So we were looking at a way to utilize MasterControl in production. That's where the MX module came into play. So the first thing we do is we picked a team. We identified the key stakeholders: manufacturing, operators, engineering, and above all, quality. These were all involved in the developing of our very first batch record template or master template. Everybody got an input into it. Everybody could see it. Everybody saw it, how it developed and worked working through the questions and making sure that we're collecting all the data that we need to collect. The biggest thing that does is it engages everybody for better adoption. It's like, hey, yep, hey, this batch record's coming out. I've already been involved with it. I kind of know what it looks like. I know how it's going to work. And that allows for better adoption on the floor and through upper management. Also, keying in insights to be able to say, hey, to management, to the manufacturing leads, they have an access to quickly look at a dashboard, see what's going on, see what's, see how things are trending, how things are tracking. Quality has instant access to the batch record. If something's going slightly sideways or something's going askew, they could see it. And the other thing is to run tests, okay? Either full-blown tests or benchtop simulations. So what I mean by that is simulating a production run. Open up the batch record, issue the batch record, have operators enter data in it. Whether it's real time or not, sorry, not real time, but actually if it's real data, so you're actually doing a physical run on the production floor where you're actually assembling, packaging, labeling, all that stuff, a small batch, or if you're doing it on the tabletop where somebody just says, all right, here's what you're making. Here's the number of parts that were brought into the room. Here's the calibration data. Running through the simulation from start to finish to understand, to find out if there's any missing stuff. Like, oh, hey, we didn't capture the labels being brought into the room, or hey, we didn't capture this needs to be within this range. We got to get that in the batch record. So that identifies problems before they're problems. So it allows you to address corrections before you actually go live with the template. So highly recommend bench testing, whether it be full-on production or simulations. MasterControl has test and dev environments to use in, so you're not actually doing anything in the MasterControl production instance, but you are actually using the test and the dev site to actually develop the batch records, play around with them, get them ready to go, move them into test for the validation phase, and once that's good to go, then finally move them all into production. So, next slide. So what are our future plans? So currently right now, we have just implemented logbooks within the last month. We are going to start looking at integrating that with our production, with the batch records, especially with cleaning and some other calibrations that we're following up with. We're going to start looking at integrating logbooks with our production records. Asset Excellence, or AX, is the MasterControl purchased Qualler, which has been out there for years. We're going to start looking at integrating that with the batch records. We're also looking at API connections for that automatic recording of scales. One part of our packaging, we have to do a tear on a scale to figure out an average weight of something. We want to be able to automate that. Just click the button, suck all that data into the batch record, have it do the calculation, and then we can move forward. Also looking at API connections for our ERP system that we are currently in the process of implementing. So we're going to look at connecting that with our batch records. And then, like I said, we are currently actively diving into insights to build these dashboards for better reporting, visibility on kind of tracking and trending stuff within the production, on the production floor, reject rates, percent yields over time, percent yield by product, all these little dashboards that we can create with insights. We're currently starting to roll those out to individuals. So we're kind of doing a soft rollout of some of these dashboards. We're giving kind of the key people and say, hey, what do you think of this? What are we missing? What needs to be added? What needs more explanation? Everybody in qualities, we have these wonderful meetings that we conduct every month where it's kind of like, hey, show me your data, or once a quarter metrics, monthly metrics. If we can eliminate one meeting by getting somebody, hey, just go look at the dashboard, that saves us time, because the less meetings we're sitting in, the more stuff we can get done. So we are actively using that insights to kind of get that kind of eliminate the needing for these weekly, monthly meetings, but also allow the operators and management to see at a very quick glance what's going on the production floor and what's been going on the production floor. So that's all I have.
Thanks so much, Patrick. So we do have a question for you. David asked, how did you manage the validation for master batch record templates?
Okay, so that's super easy. They have this wonderful thing called VOD, validation on demand. So what that does is it actually goes into the batch record and executes it. It fills in data. It challenges the branching. It basically fills out a batch record. And then the best thing about it is it spits out a report that you have to slightly tweak things on, but you have a validation report. It tells you if any tests fails, any tests were skips, and it shows you all the passing stuff done on the batch record. Now, initially, we did some preliminary PQ testing on the batch records with what we call a happy path and a sad path, where the happy path was, hey, we're going to say everything passed. Okay, great. Then we're going to go down the sad path and say everything failed, to verify that if I say something fails, it flags it as failed, and then it also does the notification that we expected. MasterControl, am I allowed to sneak peek stiff, or should I keep everything?
I'm not sure where you're headed. So
MasterControl is going to start looking at negative path testing on the batch records through VOD. So it will test a happy path, it'll test a sad path. So validation on the templates, super easy. You just tell it to validate it, it runs through it. You can monitor it real time, how long it's taking, and then it'll pass. You'll have access to a report. And then that report we tweak it a little bit, route it around for MasterControl for approval, and we're good to go.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. If there are any other questions, you can go ahead and submit those now. If not, we're going to take a few minutes for Kelly to do a little bit more of a deep dive into insights that she was showing earlier. I think some folks missed that. And we want to make sure that you guys see the capability for MX in insights for those reporting capabilities. So Kelly, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to do that. If there are questions that come up in the meantime, I'll kind of jump in.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, I am going to go ahead and share again. All right, so we're going to go over some of the out of the dashboard results. Out of the dashboard insights displays. So this first dashboard is an out-of-the-box dashboard. You can see here it's summarizing the closed accepted versus closed rejected. Again, you can set up pulses just like you can in the control chart that I showed you earlier, but you could add to pulse, let's say, every time you have a reject from the floor to make sure that that gets communicated. In addition, this right here is showing you very similar to those pie charts and bar charts earlier about the number of records that the data is complete, awaiting review, versus in process, versus open but not yet started. Down here at the bottom corner are the production records currently in process. So this right here is going to summarize all of the current open records that have been started, and you're going to see every data entry to them so you can tell exactly where it has left off. And we also have customizable dashboards that are in premium, where you can actually get a tabular dashboard showing you how much products are in each, I guess, department or section of your template. The containment section, where you can search for any data entry, that is all out of the box. The data is yours. You're happy to export it and use it however you like. You are good to search for any type of lot number or pieces of equipment, and it's going to return any of those values really just in with a few seconds, and letting you know, what sections were these found in. So you can even get an eye of, what steps, phases, operations, and unit procedures have these values been used in. All right. Other out of the box dashboards. This right here is summarizing all of your closed and rejected. This right here, I have filtered on the last 6 days, and look, I haven't had too many out of the spec ones over the last few days. So let me go ahead and search the past month. And this right here, again, is going to summarize anything that's been closed and rejected. It also will show you this handy chart here that's going to show how many I have accepted versus how many I have rejected. So hopefully in the real world environment, your little purple line is way below the blue line. But again, all of this is out of the box, so you can really see your performance, as well as drill down in any of these to see individual batch performance. Any of these you can, again, sort by lot or product ID to narrow that focus down more.
And Kelly, can you speak briefly about data export for insights?
Absolutely. So all of your data can be exported. So if, for instance, I wanted to come here to a list of all of my corrections, and I wanted to export that, I can export that to a PDF or CSV file or something, so that you can use it in any situation you want. If you want to throw some data in a mini tab for some statistical analysis, if you want to do your own types of track and trending, all of that is fully accessible by you. You own all of your data. You can export it freely and play with it however you want to. So absolutely. Any other particular questions? Let's see.
We don't have any as of right now. I'll also just say, if anyone has questions for Patrick as well, we don't have to talk about insights. I just wanted Kelly to show a bit more about what's available to you out of the box for MX. But if there are other questions more broadly, we're happy to address those as well.
Yeah,
So
all
I
of these.
can,
Yeah, go
so
ahead, Patrick.
I was going to say, yeah, I would, one thing too, Kelly, is I would mention that within any dashboard that has a chart on it, you can actually drill down within the chart to get to the data where that data is coming from. So if you have a chart showing, production records or something like that, you can click on the particular column and it'll drill down and highlight the data that's coming from. So it's very useful to have to drill down into the specific data. So where's the 24% coming from? It'll show me the raw data where this is coming from. So that's huge on us to be able to drill down for, okay, yeah, I show that some of our production records or phases are overdue, or they're going, you can click on them and figure out which ones they are. So it allows for a very detailed drilling down into the data from a high level down into specifics. So I just want to add to that, Kelly.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, that can be very helpful. Yeah, so we can use that by drilling down into the charts, or using, we give you a lot of filters. Typically, we have filters up top for some of the main filter categories, but then you can drill down even further and drill down to your heart's desire. So we try to keep that you can learn a lot from your data and customize the data that you actually are seeing and tracking.
All right, I don't think there are any more questions. If anyone does want to quickly type while I'm closing out, then we'll definitely address those. But thank you all for coming. You can expect a follow-up email, hopefully by the end of the week, if not by early next week, with a link to the recording and some additional resources, including some Academy courses and other things like that. If you do have questions, you can email customermarketing@mastercontrol.com, and that'll go straight to me, and I'll make sure to get you answers to any questions that you have. But thank you for your time. Thank you, Patrick and Kelly, for the presentation, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.